What's going on, everyone? Welcome on into today's video. We are talking the anchored volume profile indicator and tool now on TradingView. This is actually a new feature that they added to the left-hand side, which I'm going to show you here in just 1 second. But right now we are looking at my TradingView screen on SPY, the S&P 500 ETF. This is a daily chart. We have the 1 year, or not 1 year, these candlesticks all represent 1 day. I can zoom out to whatever time frame I would like to. That said, on the right-hand side, this is where we have the visible range volume profile. But the anchored volume profile, that's actually different. And we're going to explain that here in this video in just a second. So I'm going to get rid of my visible range volume profile on the right-hand side so that we can see this a bit better. That's the VRVP indicator on my screen. Go to the left-hand side and go to the drop-down menu or go to the tools section, okay? Underneath this right here on my screen, the long position tool, there is the forecasting and measurement tools, okay? So if you hover just to the right of each of the tools or the options like cursors, we have trendline tools, we have Gann and Fibonacci tools. So we want to hover to the right where it says forecasting and measurement tools, that little arrow that pops up. I know it's small. And then you're going to scroll down to where it says volume based, anchored VWAP, fixed range volume profile, and then anchored volume profile. That is what we're going to click. Now, what we could do with this is we can star it so it'll save it to our favorites at the top, which is what I have, which I can move this around or whatever. These are the ones that I use the most. But I'm going to go down to that same spot and I'm going to click on anchored volume profile. Now, I have a cursor on the screen. It says click to set a point. I might want to narrow in on the S&P ever since it got above this 40 or this 432 on SPY. So I might want to say, okay, once we got above this level, I want to take a look and dive deeper into the price action and the volume that has been traded in this recent, what is this, the past 2 to 3 months, whatever it's been. So click on that right there. And then once I click, we have a point established and then boom. Okay, our anchored volume profile is now what shows up. So let me zoom in so we can see this a little bit better. So it's going to just disregard price action to the left of our point. Now, I can drag this point over if I would like to, and then reset it, and click on the spot that I want to reset it. But, that's up to you to do. So if I drag it back to here, click on it, boom, give it a second, boom, now it's loaded. So it's highlighting the price action over this period, or since the point that I selected. Now, the right-hand side, you might think, okay, that does not look anything like the indicator that you had before. What are we doing here? If I was to double-click on any of these volume bars on the right-hand side, you're going to get this that pops up, okay? So these yellow and blues, this pops up. Now I can completely customize this. So inputs, we have rows layout, number of rows, or ticks per row. I'm going to leave it a number of rows, but when it comes down to number of rows versus ticks per row, this is your quick and dirty definition. If you want to screenshot this, go ahead and screenshot this, or you can find this on TradingView when you look deeper into the indicators. So the number of rows sets the total number of rows in the histogram. So let's say you'd have a row size of 25, and then top to bottom we'll have 25 rows, right? The height will be calculated automatically, yada, yada. The ticks per row indicates the number of ticks in each single row, with 1 tick being the minimum price movement. So for Apple, which is stock, right, you can't go less than 1 cent. So 1 cent is a tick, 25 ticks, whatever, do the math, that's 25 cents. So that's how it's calculated. It's not something that I worry too much about. If I go back into here, you'll see, oh, I'm way zoomed in. Let's go back to our normal size. If I were to change this to ticks per row and go okay, it makes these a little more, I don't want to say grainy, but it shows a lot more volume bars because a tick on SPY is a cent. So it's something to play around with and customize. Personally, I'm going to go up to number of rows, and I'm going to increase the row size to, let's say, 50. And if I click on OK, now when I increase the row size to 50, when you give it a second, now it brings in more of these volume rows. So it's a little bit easier to see. I personally, find a balance of what you like. When this number is too low, for example, let's say it was at like 20, let's even go 15 to really demonstrate it. If it was at 15, it's not going to be as easy to see, because there's little intricacies inside of here. There's, some levels that could be a little more interesting inside of here. And so it might be better to get a better might be more impactful to get a better view of that and to see kind of in between. So like, for example, what I mean by that is like, if I go back in here, double click on the volume profile rows, and I go back and I change it to like, let's just go to like, I don't know, 60. So the difference is pretty substantial. And why? Because, now I go in here and say, okay, now I note there's like a little bit of a gap right in here. There's a little more of a gap here. You wouldn't be able to tell with some of those things if you have the size set too low, okay, the row size. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go with like a 50. I think it's a pretty good spot for this price action. So let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, now volume up and down. I personally don't care. I just look at total. That's why my numbers or my colors were all one color on the previous piece. And value area volume. I like to set this to 100% or 100 because I want the entire thing to be bright and not shaded. You could have it set to, if you do that, what you're essentially doing is going inside of here, and let's say I want to set it to 50% or to 50, sorry. It's going to highlight essentially where 50%, that middle at 50% of the volume is actually at. So the majority, let's say you go at like 90%, you're going to be pretty much looking at everything except the way top and way bottom. So you're really highlighting the key zone. And that could be useful to some people. It depends upon your style and what you need it for. Personally, I don't use it for that reason. So I just go 100. I just go 100 to see the entire thing, bright and lit up. Now, inside of this, there's the style. So I can add a ton more here. There's the volume point of control, which is the area or the price where we've had the highest volume. You can have it popped up. You can change the colors. I'm going to get rid of it for now because it's pretty obvious to me to be able to see that. I don't really need to care too much about that level. I more can just tell, hey, we're at that key level right now, or we're at a pretty nice volume node right now. I'm going to go with up volume and down volume. I'm going to change those to white. Not that it really matters, but if I come in here, I can change the histogram box, so the box of highlighted price action, to whatever color I want. Maybe I wanted to go, I'm just going to go with the white because I have a black background. It works fine for me that way. Value area up and value area down, I just change them to white because that works best for me. But that's personally what I like to do with percentage of the box. So see how it says 30%? If I change this to 50%, what are you going to see? Those volume profile lines come way across. Some platforms actually don't have this feature, which is really, really nice because for me, 20% is enough. I want my chart to be nice and big. I'm focused in on the candlesticks, the price action, not necessarily the volume profile a ton right in front of me. I want to be able to see it on the right-hand side, but I don't want it to take up the whole screen. So that's what I'll do there, and I'll go to 20%. It works, seems to work fine. You can add visibility numbers or visibility selections if you don't want to see it on different time frames and coordinates and whatnot. But that's like the majority of this volume profile. Now, traders will use this in different ways. I can also save this as a default, these settings as a default if I wanted to, or as my own layout or template, or I can go back to defaults and it will just reset it back to defaults. I'm going to leave it as is. So some traders will look at this and say to themselves, okay, how do you use this? So what I like to use this for, and of course this can be altered depending upon your investing or trading styles. But for me, I will note these large areas of volume nodes, and I will look at those as potential areas of resistance and areas of consolidation. So when we approach some of these levels, I'm watching closely to see how price reacts, and I'm not necessarily expecting price to come down and just blast right through. Okay, we've had a lot of volume exchange at these price points. I expect the same until proven otherwise. And once you move up into areas where we have less volume, I expect price to move faster. So for example, if we get above this blue line, which just so happens to be above this volume node, there could be a nice like $1 or $2 move on SPY up towards 445, 446. This next volume little node right there, indicated by like this volume gap right here. Make it a nice quicker move through that, and we can fill those areas faster. So price might be able to fill through and fill those volume gaps quicker once we move up into them or down into them. So that's kind of how I like to use it. But again, You can use it a bunch of different ways. Put it on your charts, see how stocks react, see how it works for you, and then alter the settings, and use it the way you see fit, because there is not one size that fits all when it comes to the anchored volume profile, or really any volume profile indicator in general. Any questions, comments, leave them down below. This platform, again, is TradingView. That's where we have the anchored volume profile popped up on our screen. That's how you set it up, and it's a fairly new feature that they added to the left-hand side to essentially our toolkit that we have access to at the touch of a button. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you are liking and subscribing. Peace out.